Greetings, this is Rosalind Parks with National Network View News. Tonight, our guests, Sister Saniyyah Muhammad and Brother Nicholas Muhammad, students at Asiatic Minds Online School, will discuss how they are connecting with their instructors, connecting with their classmates, and showing great interest in a variety of subjects. Later in the show, GlobalView contributor Brian E. Muhammad, Final Call News staff writer, will discuss the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan's press conference held days after the tragedy of 9/11. Before we get into the top news, let's do a recap of the current events we've recently covered. GlobalView contributor Brian E. Muhammad, Final Call News writer, discussed 20 years of war in Afghanistan and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan's October 2002 letter to President George W. Bush regarding America's warmongering. After the bombing of the World Trade Center in New York, then President George W. Bush accused the Taliban of sheltering Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda, and they also claimed that they were responsible for the tragedy. After 20 years of war, was Bush's allegations ever proven?
Well, they accused Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, and yes, they did accuse the Taliban of sheltering Osama bin Laden, against being held accountable for this accusation for 9/11. And they use that as a pretext, as a false flag, in fact, to go into Afghanistan and go to war in Afghanistan, and to use this as a pretext for this so-called war on terror.
Medical contributor Dr. Akili Muhammad discussed public concerns about the COVID-19 variants, future strains, and mounting evidence that vaccinated people are the spreaders. Should the public be worried about this and the future strains at all?
Well, like I say, if anybody has been infected, and, to me, I think it's very difficult for anybody in the world, again, as I said before, unless you live in very remote places. If you live in any type of congested urban area, you probably have been exposed to it. Okay. And so if you have been sick from the coronavirus, any of the strains, any of the mutations, or if you have been exposed and your body fought it off, you are very well protected. And it's been shown in many parts of the world that a person who has been infected has much better antibody and much better protection than any vaccine. And we're talking about all the different vaccines around the world. They are not comparing to your natural immunity. So we have to go back to believing in God, understanding that our immune system came from God. So if you do the things that takes care of that, or you've been infected and you got over it, you're protected. So, fear should go down. Continue to be careful, but fear should go down and our confidence should go up that we're going to be okay.
Our guest last week, Sister Colette Muhammad, discussed food preservation and canning techniques. Sister Colette, when did you start canning?
Okay, one of my favorite questions to answer. Well, to say when I first started canning, I have to qualify how I learned how to can in the first place. So just briefly, I'm an MGT, so I'm a registered member of the Nation of Islam. Okay, and so the sisters, the females in the Nation of Islam, we have 7 training units, and those training units are how to keep house, how to rear our children, how to take care of our husbands, sew, cook, and just in general, how to act at home and abroad. And so approximately the year 2015, 16, around thereabouts, we were in our cooking curriculum. And so the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan, who is the absolute head of our class, okay, yes. He gave us the instruction to learn the skill of canning. And so that's how it began.
Recently, I spoke with GlobalView contributor Brian E. Muhammad, Final Call News writer, who discussed the fear and uncertainty in Afghanistan as U.S. troops depart. Can you give us some information as to what is happening in Afghanistan?
Wow. Well, the United States have just removed themselves from Afghanistan. And I would really say they were put out of Afghanistan as the latest empire that lost a war. Afghanistan is known throughout the world as the graveyard of empires. And the United States went in 20 years ago, as we know, and it has now come out defeated, deflated, and it's going to be a new chapter for Afghanistan, but certainly another chapter in terms of how the U.S. government is going to handle this public embarrassment of such a loss.
Sister Saniyyah Muhammad, founder and director of Asiatic Minds Online School, and Sister Kimberly Muhammad, English instructor, discussed how Asiatic Minds English class will improve students' communication skills and English literacy proficiency. As Asiatic Minds curriculum and courses help students develop the necessary skills and abilities to build a bright future, how important is it for English language proficiency in students' success?
Once again, thank you for having us, Rosalind. And it's absolutely important, the proficiency of language, because after all, we were tricked by the English language into slavery. And so in order for us, our students, to progress in any subject that they want to do, they must understand and be proficient in the language in which they speak. That way they can articulate their thoughts properly, their feelings and emotions, and they can also understand others and be able to pick up on the nuances if there is something not quite right and incorrect words are being used. So it is absolutely important, that proficiency piece.
Weekly contributor Dr. Akili Muhammad updated us on the latest information regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, its variances, and its impact. Okay. Now, how did ivermectin even become a COVID medicine?
Yeah, there's a thing in medicine that happens on a frequent basis where during testing, we will find that a medication may have a side effect, or a medication may have something that it does different than what we thought and what the idea was from the medication from the beginning. And that is something that has happened. The medication is being used. I don't know the story on how it started, but the medication, as the clip said, and of course, I'm not a veterinarian. I've never used it for animals, but I have used it in the past for people that have had parasites. And we're not talking about parasites on a level like people typically talk about on social media, but I mean literal like worms and things that people have in their bodies, which is not common.
Okay.
But I've used it for that. And they found that it has anti-inflammatory as well as antiviral properties, which are both very important things when it comes to fighting COVID-19.
On I Have a Testimony, NMB News anchor Willie Muhammad's guest was Sister Amina X, an educator, art activist, and a member of the Cultural Revolution, who also teaches art at MUI. Sister Amina X discussed being of Chinese descent and the guidance she offers others as a member of the NOI, the attacks against members of the Asian community, and false ideas that exist about Asian and Black communities, and more.
Can you briefly share a little bit more about the letter that Mao Zedong that he wrote?
Yes, it was an 11-page telegram. At that time, Mao was fighting classism. He did not believe in, the working poor being really poor. He wanted equality, and he found an alliance or found parallel movements with the Black American Civil Rights Movement as fighting against injustices and the poor taking advantage, or the rich, taking advantage of the poor. And so he believed that if we support the Black movement in America, we can free all oppressed people all around the world. So he supported the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in uplifting Black people in America.
Sister Amina X also discussed her work as a member of the Cultural Revolution, teaching students at MUI.
How did your love for art first begin?
My grandmother was an art teacher in China. And so when I was a little girl, when she told me stories, she would draw them out while she was telling me the stories. So I literally saw stories come alive right in front of me. And I saw the power of storytelling. I saw the power of images. So that was deeply ingrained in me as a young girl, and it has guided my career, it's guided my spiritual path. Art to me is the process of spiritual cultivation. And so I see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan as one of the greatest artists I have ever met. It is in the way that he teaches, it's his as a musician, so yeah, art has been a guiding force in my life that Allah has been communicating to me through.
Sister Saniyyah Muhammad, founder and director of Asiatic Minds Online School, and student minister Daniel Muhammad, Asiatic Minds chess instructor, discuss how chess class will benefit students. Now, can chess help improve Asiatic Minds students' level of focus and concentration in class? And if so, how so?
Absolutely. Well, in public and charter schools, one of the biggest issues is that they say that our children are very impulsive, that we don't know how to behave ourselves, we have no self-control or discipline. And all of those features are answered by our study of the game of chess. Chess teaches you several things. Number one, the discipline, right? Because you're not going to be good, you're not going to win if you can't exercise discipline. It also teaches you how to control your impulses. Impulsive chess players are always penalized. We love them. They're easy to defeat. So it teaches you how to control those things. And most importantly, what chess teaches is to look ahead and start planning in advance. And that's one of the things that I think the students will not just carry through their chess career or through their schooling career, but it's going to carry over into their adult life as well.
Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. Then, students at Asiatic Minds Online School will discuss how they are connecting with their instructors, their classmates, and their learning. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Asiatic Minds Online Education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people, and upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Call now, 502-219-4848.
This is Sister Saniyyah Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
The hashtag Bank Black social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small but significant steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
As Asiatic Minds online school courses are helping students develop the necessary skills and abilities, students are connecting with their instructors, classmates, and showing great interest in a variety of subjects. Joining us today are Sister Saniyyah Muhammad and Brother Nicholas Muhammad, two students currently attending Asiatic Minds Online School. Greetings.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, ma'am.
Sister Saniyyah, this is your third week of class at Asiatic Minds Online School. You've expressed a great interest in the Asiatic Minds math class.
Yes.
What? Yes.
Yes. I actually, that's like my favorite subject with almost every school I go to. But I especially like Brother Shahid's class because, yes, we're learning math, but we're learning math in a very fun way. It's like he's not just giving us the facts and just doing it. He's giving us the facts, explaining it in a fun way. He always says that mathematics is Islam and Islam is mathematics, and I believe that to be true. Everything that we do is involved with math. He says he wants us to be bilingual in the language of mathematics and English. And I love that.
Perfect. Yes, ma'am. What has been the most interesting topic you've focused on in your math class so far?
Probably the most interesting fact. We play a game where we figure out a math problem and you have to figure out a word. And it's like, like Wheel of Fortune?
Yes.
When you pick out the words and then eventually you have to guess what the thing is. And all of the things that he puts in the box will have to do with something with the general orders or Measure to the Black Man. So you really have to study so you can understand.
Yes, ma'am. Now, Brother Nicholas, it's critical for students to connect with each other and with their class instructors. How have you made any new friends since you've started this school year?
Yes, ma'am. I have made around probably a little bit more than that. 5 friends, such as Brother West, Brother Khalid, Sister Amani, Brother Cash, and Sister Nia.
Quite a few.
Yes, it is.
Now, are you also enjoying your math class? What's your favorite subject?
My favorite subject, I would say math.
Okay.
Because one of the same reasons as Sister Saniyyah.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to say Spanish class because it is exciting learning a new language.
Yes, it is. Now, Brother Nicholas, how does it make you feel to know that you have your Asiatic Minds classmates and instructors there for you to talk to you and to help you if you need it?
So it makes me feel like they're there for me when I need help, such as sometimes one of my friends will help me with my homework because I'm very bad at math. So I just, I have friends that will help me. And the teachers as well.
Good. Now, Sister Saniyyah, what do you do to keep your energy level up during online class?
Well, what I do to keep my energy up, I'm a very energetic person. I'm a very energetic person in general with anything I do. I do music. So if I don't get the work that I need to get done, I can't do music because, of course, music is a hobby of mine and I have to, I don't know, it's just exciting to challenge myself, especially what Nicholas said. He said he's not good at math. Personally, I'm just not good at language arts and science and things like that. So whenever we get science homework or language arts homework, I'm just like, okay, so if I get this done, afterwards I can practice. Afterwards, I can go to band practice, orchestra, it's just always like, okay, after I'm done with this, it's going to be something exciting afterwards.
Right. What instrument do you play?
I play the alto sax and violin.
Oh, two. Okay. All right. And Sister Saniyyah and Brother Nicholas. Brother Nicholas, we'll go to you first. Give us some tips on how you stay focused in the online classroom and avoid distractions.
Well, first of all, you need to find a quiet space with no distractions and a place where you usually do work. I usually just go and do my work in the basement because it's quieter there. And another one is the key is I usually don't have anything else on my table except laptop, notebooks, pencils, and other materials that are used for schoolwork, and nothing more than that.
Okay. Sister Saniyyah, do you have any tips that you can share with us to avoid distractions?
Definitely what Brother Nicholas said. Make sure you have a quiet space because that's very critical. Because we're online, we're not in the classroom. So, of course, you live in the home with your family. Family could be doing this, doing that. Make sure you got a closed space. And then especially make sure you, I got to work on this myself. Make sure you sleep at night. Make sure you get some good sleep because if you join class tired, you're going to want to go to sleep. You're going to want to do this and that. Make sure you're sitting up at a desk because if you're sitting in your room, you're going to go to sleep. You're going to be tempted to lay down in your bed. So definitely have no distractions and make sure you have good sleep and all the utensils you need for the morning.
Those are wonderful tips and some that I need to make sure that I follow myself. So thank you. Also joining us today, we have founder and director of Asiatic Minds Online School, Sister Saniyyah Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Rosalind.
Yes, ma'am. Walaikum salam. Now, we've heard from Sister Saniyyah, we've heard from Brother Nicholas, Sister Sherry. Can you give us some insight on how the first week of school went?
Wonderful, in one word. It was busy. It was very busy. It was fun because the children, they were, some of our younger children, they kind of got lost. We have two different classrooms for students to log into. And so it was eventful monitoring and making sure that some of our younger students got into the right classroom. But once they got into the correct classrooms, everything was great. The teachers are amazing. The children connected immediately. I was really surprised at how quickly the children formed friendships, were very comfortable with one another and with the teachers online. So it was a wonderful first, and this is our third week that we're into now. So it's been great thus far.
Perfect. Now, is there still time for students to sign up at AsiaticMinds.com?
Yes, ma'am. We still have just a little bit of space left.
Okay.
And it's not too far into the school year to where you cannot sign your child up. If you're interested, definitely go to AsiaticMinds.com and you can sign up there, take a look around. You just heard some testimonies of our students, and those two students are really awesome. As you can see, they volunteered to come on the show and represent their school. And I certainly appreciate them in doing so and representing us very well. So thank you, Sister Saniyyah and Brother Nicholas. But yes, go to AsiaticMinds.com and go ahead and sign up your child. We'd love to have them.
Perfect. And Sister Saniyyah, Brother Nicholas, if you're still there with us, thank you both for joining us. And thank you for volunteering, just as Sister Sherry just said. She was listening backstage, and as you heard, she is very proud of the both of you for doing this. So to both of you, I look forward to following those tips in my own online schooling, and I am sure you all will do wonderful this school year. Sister Sherry, thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to hearing you hearing from you again next week.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so very much, Sister Rosalind. Thank you, NNV News. And of course, thank you to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan and his family for the great sacrifices that they have made in order for us to be here, for me to be sitting here talking about Asiatic Minds Online School. So thank you, dear Minister. Thank you, NNV News.
Thank you. Let's pause for announcements from our sponsors. Coming up, GlobalView contributor Brian E. Muhammad, Final Call News staff writer, will discuss the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan's press conference held days after the tragedy of 9/11. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Saniyyah Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
After the horror of the tragedy of 9/11, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan held a press conference to offer guidance and warnings to America and to then President George W. Bush. Joining us to discuss is GlobalView contributor and Final Call newspaper staff writer, Brian E. Muhammad. Greetings, sir.
Greetings, Sister Rosalind. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, sir. Brother Brian, 20 years have passed since the horror and the tragedies of 9/11. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan held a September 16, 2001 press conference to offer guidance and warnings to America and to then President George W. Bush. Why did he call that press conference at that time?
You know, because the America as a country was in great distress and great pain, as well as the world that watched these planes go into these towers and, you know, and the level of devastation and death that it caused. And so, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan is a respected leader with a wide constituency of people who was concerned and needed guidance. And that press conference served as a way of him speaking to the world, the sentiment of his condolences, you know, his guidance, you know, his analysis, and as a divine warner, whom we believe is a divine warner in our midst, a word from Allah to give guidance again to the great tragedy in America's great moment of pain at that time.
So with that, National Student Minister Ismail Muhammad delivered a message at Mosque Maryam focused on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan's 9/11 press conference. And in that message, he mentioned that the minister referred to the police officers who rushed into the buildings to save people and called them heroes. Was this a testament to Minister Farrakan's remarkable leadership ability, given that our people have been victimized by police brutality?
you know, it gives testimony not only to his leadership ability, you know what I mean? I think that even his enemies will bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan has leadership abilities. But I think it bears witness to the quality of his heart, you see, because in the Holy Quran, which is the scripture of the Muslims, it says, do not allow enmity or hatred against the people to cause you to be unjust to them. Now, certainly for the Nation of Islam, we don't consider the police or firefighters or those who serve the society that we live in as enemies. Even with the level of police brutality and the level of things that police have done, there's never a cause to hope that anything like that will come upon anybody, you know, in terms of what happened in 911. And the minister's words lifted the fact that these first responders were heroes. And then he also he described them out of the words in the Holy Quran. He said that those who rushed into danger to save life, as many people were obviously trying to get away from the scene at that time. The Holy Quran refers to people with that mindset and that level of sacrifice as the foremost, And so we see them as heroes because they did not wake up that morning to go and die, but they work every day. And again, notwithstanding the problems that Black communities have with police, but they still wake up every day. Good cops and bad cops wake up every day not knowing whether they will return to their families at the end of a shift. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan, I believe, if we listen to the press conference words and we read the words of not one but 2 letters that he sent over the course of a year to then President George W. Bush, we will feel him. We will feel the heart of a man that his enemies would like to continue to lie on and claim that he's some hater, that he's some anti-Semite, he's anti-gay, he's anti-this, anti-white. But he's a lover of humanity because humanity comes from the very God that he represents.
Yes, sir. Now, you mentioned something very important there, his leadership, and that those who woke up that morning did not wake up intentionally to die. One of the things that we notice in the media is the lies that come out about the things that they claim minister has said, as well as the lies about what they claim the Nation of Islam stands for. Would you say that the minister, in calling them heroes, in that instance, has shown us by example that we could rise above any personal issues that we have during a great time of tragedy and come together?
Yes. And you know, and it's very important because that sentiment is the crux of the problem that the United States government, with its sordid history of oppression against Black people, its oppression against the red, its oppression against the brown, its oppression against poor whites, and the dirt that it has done worldwide, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan has been a faithful warner to America to change course. Inherent in warning, you know, if God, who's all powerful, wanted to destroy a nation, he can just destroy a nation. But why would he send prophets, messengers, and warners to give nations a chance to change course? So his mercy outweighs his ability to destroy, his ability to avenge for all of the dirt and the wrong that this nation has done throughout its history. So yes, the minister in that day and in this day proves that he's a man that will lead by example in terms of how do you deal with those perpetrators of evil, particularly against your own people. But in this case, we're talking about against a world that is in terrible condition and is in terrible trouble, with America at the center of much of that trouble throughout the world. So rather than him hold his hands and just let Allah do what Allah will do to nations and have done to great empires in the past, he uses his voice as one to warn and to call you back to balance. So yes, he leads by example in that instance.
Yes, sir. Now, one of the things that we've noticed over the years is that his warning to then President George W. Bush was not his first warning to a president. The minister, with his heart, as you mentioned, he is a lover of humanity. He has warned a number of presidents. Is that not correct?
That's correct. You're right. He has warned Ronald Reagan. He has warned all of the presidents, because when you sit in that seat, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who is the eternal leader of the Nation of Islam, he said that we are living in a time of judgment. And if we're living in a time of judgment, that means that America is not just the latest in a long line of empires that need warning, but it sits as the all of those empires rolled up in one is America, the power of America. And the nations of the earth who have to be warned too. Because it's not just America that commits evil throughout the world, but these world nations and these world governments and these leaders. So in his warning, and again, in the warning, inherent in warning is mercy. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan represents the very mercy of God in our midst. But they refuse to listen. Why? Because in their own sense of white supremacy, in their own sense of hatred against the slave that they have made blind, deaf, and dumb. So now if Allah raises one from among the slaves whom they look at as nothing, it influences how they receive the warning, which is, again, goodwill from God through his servant. They don't listen because they don't want to hear from a black man. And that's real. See, so no, Bush was not the first, and Bush certainly was not the last. He warned every last one of them. And 20 years after 9/11, we have Joe Biden, who black people overwhelmingly put into office. But look at what he has done. He has placed America further into the throes of God's judgment, and he has also placed America in a place of isolation, even among his Caucasian and world leaders throughout the world who were damaged by the fiasco at the end of this war in Afghanistan, and the way George Bush, in the way Joe Biden handled it or mishandled it.
So one of the things, and speaking of President Joe Biden, one of the things that was noted was within his first, I believe it was the first 100 days of him taking office, we were bombing Syria. As the warner, can you help me remember whether or not Joe Biden received a warning once he got into office or prior to that?
I mean, I would say this. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan have been speaking. His representatives have been speaking.
Yes, sir.
And Joe Biden this is not his first rodeo. Mm-hmm. He was vice president to Barack Obama when they went into Libya and unjustly overthrew the country of Libya and caused the death of a good man in the leader Muammar Gaddafi. He was there when that administration was warned. And again, warning is a mercy, but the mercy of God don't last forever.
Yes.
Because Allah intends to make a universal change, establish a universal government of peace where we all can live in peace together. So this of what America and the world nations are doing, this continuous warmongering, this continuous disrespect of the sovereignty of one another on the world stage, this will not last forever.
Right.
So we're saying give yourself an extension of time at least and do right by the people of the earth, that God will look favorably on you.
Yes, sir. And thank you, Brother Brian. I wanted to make sure that I asked that question just in case anyone was looking for a specific warning for our current president. But you're right. We have been receiving warnings for many years. So I'm glad that you were able to speak to that. I want to take a very quick break, but when we return, we'll have more with Brother Brian E. Muhammad. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
Asiatic Minds Online Education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Classes begin September 1st. To enroll, visit AsiaticMinds.com.
This is Sister Saniyyah Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
Greetings from National Network View. This week's Final Call cover story headline reads, "Separate and Be Saved. America's race problems and deadly race interactions are growing worse. It is time we leave the children of our former slave masters and 400-year-old tormentors. Separation from whites is the only and best solution to this problem, a serious problem that is rooted in prophecy." This FCM Volume Number 41 edition middle page article by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan is entitled, "A Case for Separation." To read more, subscribe to FinalCallDigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the NNVNews.com Final Call Cover Report.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.
Thank you for returning with us. Prior to the break, we were speaking with Brian E. Muhammad about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan's compassion and his heart for humanity. Greetings, Brother Brian. Thanks for returning with us as well.
Of course.
Yes, sir. Now, the Holy Quran and the Bible both speak of how God sent prophets out of his mercy to warn a people so that they might right their wrongs. As the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan is the representative of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is his commission to be our divine reminder?
Yes, because there are the wise that have studied scripture. There have been the wise who have studied the prophecies, who knows the ends of great empires like America if America doesn't change course. So he is a reminder of what has been in America, at least from 1930, with the advent of Master Fard Muhammad, who is the teacher of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad have been warning America and have been a faithful servant to guide America away from the course that America has been on, at least since 1931 to the mid-1970s until he departed. So the Minister Farrakan is a reminder, but he's more than a reminder, you know, because again, he is like a deer. Allah will not chastise a nation while his servant is among them, nor will Allah chastise a nation while that nation is in a state of repentance. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan, if we go back to his July 4th, 2020 lecture called The Criterion,
yes,
he called the nation leaders. He called the leader of China. He called the leader of this nation at that time, but he's talking to, again, the presidency. So as that went to Trump at that, President Trump at that time, it now goes to whoever sits in that seat now, Joe Biden. That if you all enter your chamber, you know, and go in and call your people to repentance for what you have done in this world, the corruption that has engulfed the whole world, America's wicked foreign policy. Go into your chamber and ask God to forgive you, and Allah will hear you. So the minister is more than just a reminder, but he is this light of truth in, you know, he's like the light at the end of the tunnel, this tunnel of darkness that they have placed themselves in by their actions. So
Yes,
what
sir.
we're saying is change your ways. What we're saying is get the people of America who know very little about your foreign policy dirt that you have done throughout the earth. Get them out of the way of the path of God's chastisement by righting some of the wrongs that you have done. This is the sentiment of Louis Farrakan. He's not just a leader who is trying to make some self-aggrandizement move to stay relevant. No, if he doesn't say another word, he's been talking to us first under his teacher over the last 60 something years now, 60 since 1955. And 40 something years now, or 40 or so years now, after the departure of his teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So if he says nothing else, he has said enough that you cannot say, I'm talking to the nations of the earth, that you have not heard. You have heard.
Yes. Yes, sir. And in light of that 9/11 news conference, did the ministers post conference and subsequent letters to President Bush reveal his desire to preserve life and avert war? We've been there for 20 years. There's been trillions of dollars spent, thousands of lives lost. Has America's failure to heed the minister's warnings brought her closer to a final war?
Yes. It's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Allah have allowed America to become the greatest nation on this earth. Technologically speaking,
yes.
Economically speaking, educationally speaking. All of the damage it has done worldwide. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if it lent its resource and power as the sole superpower in the earth right now to good? What good will the shape the world will be in? So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the United States will not win another war.
Mm.
You go back into the history. What was the last war that the U.S. won? Now they say, okay, well, the collective win in World War II. That's debatable, but they didn't win Korea. They lost Vietnam. They lost in Iraq twice. They lost overwhelmingly. They have lost. We just saw this longest running war in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but they will say that, well, we killed Osama bin Laden, whom we say was the mastermind.
Right.
We depleted Al-Qaeda, which was his organization. We overthrew the Taliban government at that time, who we say was harboring them. But the Taliban is back in power now.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
You had to leave. And then the fact that you fought, you got rid of the Taliban a year in after getting there. You depleted Al-Qaeda within that very first decade. You killed bin Laden, I forget the year, 2011. You killed him. You say he's gone, so why were you still there? See? Mm-hmm. And then had to admit that you lost. You had to admit that and this is not a gloating session.
Right.
Because this is closer to that final war that the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the prophets said, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan had been warning against. Mm-hmm. That war to end all wars. And you know why it will end all wars? Because it will absolutely break the power of America. Mm-hmm. They will go there in the thousands, but they will return in the tens. So in that, it's a war that will drag in nations of the earth, and it will cause a move by God to make his move. And as I said last week, God is an all-in God. Mm-hmm. He's an all-taker because he owns everything already. He wants to eradicate evil. Which is why if we go back and read the minister's letters, Sister Rosalind,
yes,
he ended both of those letters, December of December of 2001 and October of 2002. And listen to these words. He ends it just like this. He said, I am your servant. Wait a minute. He said, thank you for taking the time to read these words. I am your servant in the war against evil. Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan, servant to the Lost Foundation of Islam in the West. He ends both letters saying, I am your servant in the war against evil. See, this is not about just nations. It is the war between God and Satan. And if you took on the way of Satan, then in God's destruction of Satan, either you're going to get yourself out of the way in time, or it is what it is. But God warned you. See, that's the tragedy. So yes, the minister wants to see America avert this final war.
Right.
Why don't you become a standard for peace in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Where when Allah makes his universal change and he brings about a universal government that he will rule. Because when that government come about, sister, it ain't gonna be 190 something nations and God's nation.
Right.
No, it's gonna be God's nation, period. And everybody else is either will have submitted to that or they would have been eradicated. And again, the reason we don't gloat over this is because, they brought this on themselves. Allah is not doing this out of an unjust move against the world nations.
True. That's right.
They wronged themselves. As the Holy Quran says, we wronged them not, but they wronged themselves. So I'm hoping that they will listen, but it's not in our hands. The only thing that is required of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakan and the warners and the messengers before him and the prophets who spoke to their nations before him, the only thing that God requires is that he delivers a clear word. That's it. He's not going to be a Lord. The minister's not going to be a Lord over them to make sure that they listen.
That's right.
And you have enough history to make a right decision.
Yes, sir.
And the wrong decision.
And the wrong one. And Brother Brian, I believe he has definitely done that.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. We are out of time, but Brother Brian, as always, I look forward to your insight on our global events. So next week, we will have you back to give us more insight on the GlobalView report. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, Sister Rosalind, we thank you. We thank you for hosting. We thank the network for making this available of all of the type of programming that this network does. And I want to say to those who's out there who may listen to these words, support networks like this.
Yes, sir.
Because the narrative, the reason why the American people are in such a dumbed down position over what this country has done throughout the world is because we have not had the independent voices widely available to listen to. NNV can serve as that and is serving as that.
Yes, sir.
So long as it stays on the course of programming that it decided to do. So I'm honored and proud to be on your program every week. Keep up the good work that you're doing as well as the network.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And thank you for joining us today and tuning in to National Network View News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel NNV News. This is Rosalind Parks with National Network View News. Good night.
Be a part of the force that powers truth and journalism.